Welcome back to Hannity. We continue to cover the developing crisis around the globe tonight and the tense situation here at home on our southern border. Joining me now with reaction to all that is Fox News contributor, former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin. Governor, what a view you got behind you. Thank you for being back with us.
Thank you.
Let me start with the president. Went golfing this weekend. The president was in New York fundraising the night that Israel begins its ground incursion. And, of course, the border crisis, he does nothing. The VA crisis, he does nothing. Governor Perry today steps up and puts 1,000 people on the border, National Guard. What is going on here with him from your analysis?
Well, he's obviously very disconnected to what people are going through in real life, as we outside of that Washington, D.C. bubble are quite concerned about the Middle East being a tinderbox, about the domestic issues that are really adversely affecting all of us. He's disconnected from that. But, you know, one of the specific issues going on right now is, as we have seen the airliner shot out of the sky, it's reminiscent of back in '83. Remember when the Korean airliner was shot out of the sky? 269 souls were lost, I believe, in that. The reaction from our president then, Ronald Reagan, to compare that to the reaction of all these issues that are erupting right now with our present president, how different it is. Ronald Reagan called out evil. He certainly didn't ask for flexibility or boast about wanting flexibility when a relatively evil man were to be in office. Such a difference in the mindset of the presidency then than now.
The president's going to more fundraisers, they announced, but they're going to monitor the situations. Ed Henry reported at the top of the show. Played golf this weekend. He came to New York the night that all hell was breaking loose around the world. Martha's Vineyard's coming up. To me, he seems checked out, either out of touch or checked out. He just doesn't seem like, you know, if I was president and I heard that veterans were dying and VA hospitals weren't doing their job, I'd set up a 1-800 number the next day. That's still not solved 2 months later. What is going on in his mind? How do you analyze this?
Well, you know, other examples too. You know, he was there in a border state when the crisis, the border crossing crisis, the invasion, if you will, of illegal immigrants really started erupting. He was in a border state and chose instead to go to fundraisers instead of visiting the border and seeing the consequences of the actions that he has taken that has caused these crises. Again, very disconnected. I think he is so far over his head. I mean, he's in over his head. We warned people in the campaign that he had no executive experience. He didn't have a resume at all that would prove a track record of knowing how to handle situations like this, being a community organizer with no real responsibilities. I believe a manifestation of his acknowledgement that he is in over his head is that distancing himself, passing the buck, pointing fingers, physically even distancing himself from these crises.
You know, I took that trip. I was in Dallas the night that Governor Perry met with the president. I went down the next day to McAllen, Texas. I sat in a briefing where I learned 642,000 crimes in 7 years were committed by illegal immigrants against Texas citizens. I learned that they're catching people from Yemen, Syria, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. I don't think the president seems to either know or care about it. It's just bizarre to me that he spends all this time doing all this other stuff. Let me ask you about Eric Holder. You made some comments. He responded, and I want to get your chance to respond to his attacks against you.
There's a certain level of vehemence, it seems to me, that's directed at me, directed at the president. You know, people talk about taking their country back. You know, I can't look into people's hearts, look into people's minds, but it seems to me that this president has been treated differently than others. There's a certain racial component to this for some people. I don't think this is the thing, there's a main driver, but for some, there's a racial animus.
I want to also show a tape of yourself, Governor, back in 2008, where you predicted Russia would invade the Ukraine. How interesting that you got it right and how little coverage this has gotten.
After the Russian army invaded the nation of Georgia, Senator Obama's reaction was one of indecision and moral equivalence, the kind of response that would only encourage Russia's Putin to invade Ukraine next.
Pretty profound, Governor, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, real profound. Well, you know, who couldn't see it coming when you're living here and you can see it right on over the, not from my house, but you can see, keep an eye on Putin and Russia from right here. No, I think that some obvious developments have taken place. And when we have a president who seems to be embracing this idea of shirking back as once this superpower, the shining city on a hill for the rest of the world to see and feel secure and wish to emulate, when we shrink that back now, and there is a vacuum now on the globe that is calling for leadership and calling for influence, that vacuum is being filled by evil men, and that's so unfortunate. It's not too late to get it back, though. You know, midterm elections will have a lot to do with getting that exceptionalism that is America, that message back on the globe, and we certainly need to elect people who understand it and will fight so hard for American exceptionalism. Again, the world will be a safer place.
Hope the Republican Party gets their act together. Good to see you, Governor. Appreciate it. By the way, spectacular view behind you. We got to go salmon fishing up there one day. I'm going to grab Todd and go. Looks great. Thank you.